I have never been the biggest fan of Aquaman. I don't dislike Aquaman. I view Aquaman much like I view Namor the Submariner. I think these are both excellent characters that can definitely capitalize on their powers and make for a fantastic comic book. Have they always been handled well? Well, I can't speak for Aquaman because I'm a Marvel guy. I can speak for Batman because I love Batman. I've read a plethora of Batman books over the years. Familiar with many stories. There's a lot of stories I'm familiar with that I haven't necessarily read, but I've done all the digging because Batman is one of the most intriguing characters ever. I got off on a tangent. But Aquaman he always seemed like a peripheral character to me, but not a bad character. But this article said something that I definitely want to get to because this is a question and a call I will put out to you, the bigger DC fans, to see what you think about something this article has to say. So Aquaman's new power upgrade proves he could be a force in DCU's Justice League. Okay, for the longest time, Aquaman was viewed as something of a joke. And this is what I want to ask you, the greater DC audience, about. Is this true? Was Aquaman, or has he been viewed as a joke? Is this accurate? Because I can't really speak to that. Despite enjoying tremendous mystic and political power as King of Atlantis, he was dismissed as only talking to fish. However, the current DC All-In series just gave Arthur Curry a major power upgrade. This made him the King of the Seven Seas. This made, the King of the Seven Seas more formidable in anticipation of his introduction into the DCU. Written by Jeremy Adams with art by John Timms, which, by the way, Mr. Timms, this art looks incredible. I like it. I like the sharp edges in his art. Sometimes I like art that has more smooth transitions, and then there's times where I like art like this with a lot of sharp edges. I don't know what it is. It's pleasing to my eye. The current Aquaman series took Arthur Curry in a cosmic direction. This is, I think, sometimes taking a character in a cosmic direction opens the character up, so to speak, to be something greater, something bigger. And maybe that's exactly what they were going for. So it says, let me see where I was at. Curry became the avatar. Seeking those responsible for destroying Atlantis, Curry became the avatar of a mystic force, alternatively known as the Blue and the Clear. This is comparable to the connection between Swamp Thing and the Green, which binds all plant life in the universe. The Blue connects all water and all aquatic life in the same way. The powers of Aquaman have always been tied to the Blue. However, his newfound status as the Avatar has increased his existing powers and physicality considerably. This stronger connection to the Blue has also gifted Arthur Curry with increased awareness. Beyond giving him a perfect sense of direction, it also allows him to navigate the mystic currents within the Blue. This, in turn, lets him find his way home in Aquaman #9 after his long journey through time and space. This is interesting. It seems to connect him and open him up to more power. Is this something that fans of Aquaman wanted to see? There's nothing wrong with changing characters per se. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Those of you who are very familiar with Fantastic Four, please feel free to correct me on this, on anything I say here. I believe it was Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run where the Thing's power, it was discovered that his outer shell was actually a cocoon, and once his powers matured, he shed that cocoon, and underneath he had some kind of plasma outer shell, and he could now transform back into his regular self and to that plasma form. I thought that was incredibly dope. You don't We don't want the characters that we've grown to love changed dramatically. We don't want dramatic changes. We don't want the character to become something they have never been. But with that said, I don't think any of us would mind or do mind if a character changes and becomes a little more than what they are while maintaining the core of that character. And I think those powers with the Thing, for me, worked masterfully. And it was something that I would like to see kept. Like maybe if the Thing could transform between the outer shell, that, orange outer shell, and this plasma, and then, back to his human self. Now, I know this would be somewhat of a departure from always seeing him in that orange rocky form, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad change. I think it's something that we could all grow to live with and actually love personally. How powerful is Aquaman now? It's hard to quantify exactly how much more powerful Aquaman is with the power of an infinite number of oceans flowing through him. The Atlantean wizard Arian bluntly states that, put simply, he's a god. This would seem to be an appropriate comparison given Arthur Curry's newfound omniscience. That's interesting. Curry also speaks of feeling hurricanes before they happen and hearing the cries of someone swimming leagues away. The most visible expression of Aquaman's new power comes as he rejoins his Justice League allies as they fight possessed Superman. Not only does Arthur Curry manage to survive a punch from the Man of Steel, which that is crazy, especially a possessed Man of Steel. I would imagine if Superman is possessed, that this hit was not, he didn't hold back anything. This was probably a full-on, maybe not all his might, but probably a good portion of it straight to the dome piece from Superman. That ain't no joke. But he staggers Superman long enough for Arian to banish the demon. More than anything else, that feat of strength showcases how much Aquaman has changed. It also sets a new standard for the hero in future DCU cinematic adaptations. And maybe that's the reason they went in this direction. Maybe it was just the writer thinking that, okay, maybe it's time to add another dynamic to Aquaman. I think many of these characters are 80, 60, 70, whatever years old. They're really old characters. And as time goes on, different writers add different pieces to these characters, and it's not always bad, as stated earlier. But as someone who never followed Aquaman, I wonder, was he really seen as a joke? I don't get that impression from what I've seen, but maybe some of you who followed Aquaman for years think something differently. Let me know what you think in the comments.